welcome back. And this time we're looking at security on the Plateau so that we will not have that kind of situation. We'll be looking for how to do a mass burial. Enough of the burials. I think it's time to leave, actually let the people live. Well, the Nigerian Army launched Operation Hakurin Damisa Special Forces to restore normalcy across the Plateau. And if you listen to that report, you heard the Army commander there talking about the plans and what is on ground, but they also need the people to work. To help us understand what's happening on the Plateau, we have in the studio here a member representing Jos South East Federal Constituency, Honorable Dachong Bargos. Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, good morning. Morning, Nigeria.
And you're obviously not happy with the situation on the Plateau.
No Plateau citizen is happy. Neither any Nigerian is happy with what is happening on the Plateau and other places. And ours is that after all is said and done, let our people live in peace, let our people have the right to livelihood, and at the same time, with the common phrase, let our people breed. Yeah.
And that's going to be on many fronts. You know, the very fact that people leave means people have to breathe first.
Yeah.
You know, for them to be alive. It's a very, very detailed sign of people. I mean, it's the most basic sign of life when you find out that somebody is breathing. And in this situation, we're not even talking the economics. We're talking about lives, security of lives and property. And the situation has been really tough on the Plateau, looking at a number of local governments, but I think the local government has come under focus in recent times has been Mongo. What exactly is the status of things right now? We've seen quite a number of visits. Initially, we saw the visit of the Inspector General of Police. Now we're also hearing from the Chief of Army Staff, who has launched a new operation in that particular area. For you, do you think that this is going to make any difference from what we used to have? I think it was an operation, is it something Haven? I'm trying to remember Safe Haven, yes. That's the operation that has been on the Plateau for the longest of times.
Yeah.
Well, do you think that this new operation is going to be any different from how Operation Safe Haven had operated?
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say much difference in trying to be able to articulate the issues, in giving Plateau people the sense of belonging in terms of justice. But the only difference you usually have is that when the military come into to all these crisis areas, we have the calmness, which is what we all yearn for, which is the primary responsibility of the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces. And if you recall, we requested for their intervention through the Executive Governor of Plateau State. We went around the service chiefs to be able to solicit for their support. And when we cried, the President gave a directive that, look, they should be able to come into. So whatsoever solution they are bringing now to allow our people breathe, we accept it with whole hands. But the aftermath is what usually is our own problem, that our people are being killed on a daily basis. Intervention will come in the sense that to breach and to stop the killings, but life after that, you still have our people in IDP camps that couldn't go back to their own villages that they were chased. You still have the sign of injustice, because the people that were being killed up till now have not gotten justice. So balancing the intervention is what we'll always seek and yearn for after now. Yes, what we solicited for came in, and we appreciate that fact. And justice is part of what, again, we are seeking for. That after all is said and done, the people and the number of people that have been killed, what happens to their families? The villages that have been raided, what happened to those villages? And that is the narration that I want government to look into. What are the root causes? Because the narration that has always gone out is farmers and herders clash. That's always been the wrong narration. But looking at the real causes in terms of theory, in terms of putting the theory of what represents this local government. We have 17 local government on the plateau. Why is it that the heat is always on Barkin Ladi, Riom, it was Bassa, Jos South, and recently Mongu, 6 out of 17. So these are the local government that has like high level of mineral resources and agricultural produce in the state.
So you're implying that this is not to the crux of this insecurity is not far from economic.
It's not far from economic, because economic and political, as far as I'm concerned, because at the end of the day, you are chasing these people from these local areas. And when you chase them, if it is a clash, which means at the end of the day, the two parties should be able to have casualties. But this is a situation where you chase the people entirely, and you occupy. That's an act of genocide. That's an act of land grabbing. So what we still yearn for from the military is that when you have actualized and normalized the areas, you should be able to give us our land back. Our people should be able to go back to their various places. But from 2001 and whatsoever, you will have a lot of community people that have reintegrated in different other communities. They have not gone back to their own villages. And so I will want government, now that we have a listening leadership in terms of security, because I must, in as much as I'm PDP, I must applaud the president that among the governors since he came into power, among the first governors he saw was the governor of Plateau State from a PDP state. And again, when we cried on these issues, he outrightly gave a command that the security should immediately take charge of those areas. So that we applaud him. We appreciate him for that. And looking at those, we want him to go further. That look, ensure that the land of these people are being given back to them. Because we have a lot of illegal occupants. Today in Mongu, apart from the city center of Mongu, a lot of villages in Mongu are now empty. And when you leave those villages within the next 1 year, because of fear of going back, these villages will be occupied by illegal occupants that have chased the people. So what we will seek for after now is justice. A lot of houses have been burned. So who will now rebuild, and how will those houses be rebuilt for these people? If 61 million can be used to bury corpses, we want that 61 million, that amount to be used to rebuild our houses that has been burned. So that is where people.
1 million is Lagos. I mean, that's
well, it's government.
That's Lagos
anywhere,
state
anything
government.
can happen anywhere.
Yeah.
But further to that, I want us to be very practical in these issues. When you look at all these local government, I have a little slide here. When you look at this local government, let me start with Barkin Ladi. Barkin Ladi, with this population of over 100,000 people. Agricultural resources in Barkin Ladi. Barkin Ladi is a hub of potatoes production, Irish and sweet potatoes, vegetables, grains, and livestock. And when you look at the mineral resources in Barkin Ladi, you have not less than 7 to 8 mineral resources in Barkin Ladi, be it tin, kaolin, zircon, granite, so on and so forth in Barkin Ladi. Go to Bokos local government with over 264,000 people. It is a
Barkin Ladi, just so that people can have an idea, for those who have been to Jos before, Barkin Ladi is where the airport is.
Yeah, Barkin Ladi is where the airport is. And even from the airport, you will see women selling potatoes on the road. You see a lot, and it's a hub of potatoes, being Irish and sweet potatoes. Go to the hinterland, you will see people mining, artisanal miners. But now most of these mining sites in Barkiladi and Rio, most of these mining sites are not being mined by the locals, are being mined by people that you don't even know who they are today.
In the hinterland?
Yes, they are being mined, and not just being mined, they are heavily guarded. So what is government now going to do about these areas? Because this is not just about us saying, but these are practical issues that the people are there. People that couldn't go back to their own villages. And I always give example where the former senator died in 2012, the late Senator Danton, when he went for a mass burial. Up till now, nobody could access that village. So what is happening? Today, we have these interventions. Tomorrow, we can't access our villages for many years. So what is now happening? So, which means Mangu wasn't part of those areas that were attacked in many years. Today, Mangu is now on the map. And what do you have? What do you have in Mangu in terms of Mangu with a population of about 442,000 people? Mangu, agricultural resources in Mangu, potato production, vegetables, grains. Mangu is one of the local government that contributes to the GDP of this country almost over 10% in terms of grains production on daily basis. So now with what has happened, which means the country will now get short of grains production as a result of the crisis in Mangu. And still in the same Mangu, you still have mineral resources in Mangu. So, which means if you now look at the next local government that has these mineral resources and agricultural production, which means will be the next target.
I'm going to have to ask you to hold a moment. We'll come back and take a more critical look at each of the local governments, and perhaps, maybe our next guest might be able to tell us, if they've noticed some of these armed people who are guarding miners, artisanal miners in some parts of Plateau State, and whether he also agrees with the theory that perhaps this will I say rampage we've seen on the plateau is also as a result of economic reasons. I'm tossing it out to my colleagues in Lagos to help introduce our next guest.
Well, thank you so much, Mark. Where we have with us someone else joining in this conversation, but quite honestly, I'm still very, very concerned about that issue that Honorable Dachong Bagos raised. But joining us this morning is retired Commissioner of Police Jimwan Dazong here in this conversation. Thank you for joining us this morning, Mr. Dazong. You've heard the Honorable speaking about some of these things, and as a retired Commissioner of Police, what do you have to say about the issue he raised concerning illegal miners, for want of a better word, being so heavily guarded on the plateau? Can you hear me, Mr. Dazong? Okay, could you kindly unmute? We can't hear you at all. Okay, well, while we're dealing with that one, let me quickly come to you, Honorable. Just to be clear, when you say that these miners that you talked about, unidentified miners as you put them, are heavily guarded, kindly tell, what exactly do you mean? Are they being guarded by Nigeria's security officials, soldiers, the police? What kinds of security apparatus do they have around them? Honorable, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, yeah, I can hear you. Well, it's going to be so absurd to say that these miners are guarded by security agencies. And what we know that these mining sites that we have on the plateau and most of these communities that you can have mineral resources cannot longer be accessed because of heavy artillery, because of people that will repeal anybody that wants to go into that. So when you hear gunshots from afar, and when you see that people are being killed within a range of kilometers before going to those sites, you should know that you can't even access that, those areas. So whatsoever kind of ammunitions or artillery they have, that our own people cannot really even access to say that this is the person that, but they can no longer access their communities, which is very paramount. If you cannot longer access channels television, which means somebody is refusing you from accessing channels television without you knowing who is doing that. So, but it's the same security that are guarding us. We can't say that it is the security that are guarding them, because the security that we know that are to protect us will not be part of that.
That same issue, I'm wondering how involved or how much aware would you say the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals was about, you know, this particular situation? Because, I mean, it is squarely within the purview of the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals to ensure that whatever needs to be done is done right. So if the mining is happening in a particular locality, in a particular state, I expect there should be some kind of agreement or discussion or awareness of that activity by the governor from the Federal Ministry of Solid Minerals.
Yeah, quite well, because over the years there has been this negligence from ministry because of the law. What they usually term, most of our miners are illegal miners. So we have tried from the National Assembly to see how the laws will be amended, that these miners you see within these communities are artisan miners. So the law should be able to recognize them. The government should be able to engage them. I know the last phase, we're able to have an engagement with the Ministry of Solid Minerals. And even the current governor has gone to the Ministry of Solid Minerals twice to have an engagement with them. And we are trying as much as possible that, look, the law should be amended, that these miners we have within our communities, instead of calling them illegal miners, we should be able to have them as artisanal miners. When they are now artisanal miners, government will now be able to identify the genuine miners, give them artisanal licenses, the local licenses to be able to mine. So when government take charge of who is mining what, they'll be able to know how to be able to go about it. But when you only and all the time you tag these people as illegal miners, so the real illegal people will come and take over the territory. So that is the breach and the gap government needs to look into, that the genuine and the main locals, they should be able to come into as a cooperative, which we have interacted with the Ministry of Solid Minerals for the past 2 years or so, and which is what they are doing. But what they lack to be able to make it that, look, these artisanal miners should be able to be part of the law is the amendment and to ensure that this law come into place and signed by the president. Right. So when the law come into place, they will be able to address that gap very well. But when every day these people are being tagged as illegal miners, you won't know who is the genuine miner, you won't know who has license, you won't know who is doing what at the end of the day.
I mean, looking through the local governments that are affected and just how much resources they have, both agricultural and mineral. I mean, I'm seeing granite, lead, quartz. I mean, very, very, how will I say, highly sought after mineral resources. You just wonder why Plateau State is still where it is. Naturally does not deserve to be there. And as you've said, this has been called different things. Herders-farmers clashes, communal clashes, it's been called even just plain terrorist attack and all of that. But I understand that our other guest is ready. So just a moment, Honorable, I'll come to you. But let's bring in Mr. Jim Wendezong, who's a retired commissioner of police, and get him to respond to that question or the comments you've raised about being essentially resource-related conflict, and that security forces, or indeed, it looks like security forces aren't doing the work they're meant to do, since these illegal miners are not getting the kind of attack they should get. So if you could speak to this, retired commissioner, this is really strictly at the doorstep of security agencies.
Yeah, thank you very much. You see, the issue is that most of these mining areas are in the areas where it is inhabited by the people. So people are coming to attack the indigenous or the occupants of the area where this mining is taking place. So it is difficult for you to understand whether the people who are attacking them are the same people that are providing security for the illegal miners. That's the issue. At times, you find out that somebody within his household, the little space where he farms could be a place where this mining activity is taking place. So you cannot comprehend, you cannot say for sure whether the attackers are the same people who are providing security for the illegal miners.
I mean, just to get some experience from you, from your vast experience. So if you say that it's tough to know who is who, I mean, aren't arrests made? Aren't they processed? Aren't they interrogated? Isn't there some sort of prosecution? I imagine security agencies don't just stay afar off and say, okay, who is this person? So what do you mean by it's hard to tell who is who? Does it mean that security agencies stay aloof and just expect the information or the clarification to come to them?
You see, as a matter of fact, most of our people live in the rural areas. And sometimes, due to logistic problem and the terrain, our security men cannot reach everywhere at every given time. So most attacks until the attack is carried out, that the information is made available to the security agents. So in rushing to the place, they may only race there to count the number of corpses or the dead bodies that have been killed. Now, why I'm saying that sometimes it is very difficult to understand whether the killers are people that are providing security to illegal miners, because these are areas where sometimes the terrain, you can only access it by foot. Sometimes, in most cases, by motorcycles. So, yes, our people live in the rural areas, and side by side with their farmlands are all these mining areas. Somebody will go to assess his farm. They will hear gunshot, only to discover that the person has been gunned down. He may not be alive to say this is the direction where the firing power or the gun is coming from. So it is always difficult. But the simple issue is that the people who are in this conflict with the indigenous people, they should manifest, they should make known what is actually their problem. Because in conflict management, the parties involved should be sincere to one another. What is the problem? Let us sit down and discuss the issue. When we discuss issue and we arrive at a solution, and yet the same thing is reoccurring, it is very difficult for somebody to understand whether there's trust. In fact, there's a deficit trust in all that is happening in the plateau. Because the people who are...
Mr. Dazong, if I may come in here, when you say these people should be sincere with each other, one begins to wonder. I mean, there was a time when the Plateau was considered one of the most peaceful states in the country, and many of these people have lived with each other side by side over a while. When you say they're not being sincere with each other, why would you say that?
Yes. The reason why the issue of insincerity is coming in is that Yeah, you are right. We live side by side. But a situation where a mere quarrel that can be settled, the following day you see your neighbor running away, the third day an attack is coming up. What is the issue? Is there any sincerity after you have agreed that, okay, let us agree, let us talk over it, let us resolve it? Then people will go and say, yes, we have resolved it, but yet the same thing is still reoccurring. There's no sincerity.
So you're saying that this is not an economic situation. I mean, considering the fact that these 6 local government areas that have had the most occurrence of these attacks are considered some of the wealthiest in terms of mineral resources and agricultural resources as well. You are not looking at it from that angle.
Yes, there is this element of economic. There's also this element of land grabbing, because the question is that if somebody is displaced from his home, the following day you see somebody staying there. You see somebody either removing doors. You see somebody either changing the position of things. Of course, you will know that it is land grabbing, because these people that have been displaced, if you go to these areas, you find out that the people who displaced them, they are there.
So who are the people that are displacing? Where are they coming from? Where are they coming from to come and displace these other people?
Of course, thank you very much. That is a very beautiful question. You say, I am in my 61 years now, and I know we have been living side by side with the Fulanis. We marry their wives, their daughters, and so forth. We collaborate during celebrations and so forth. But today, these same people who stay with us will invite other people that are not known to us, and before you know it, they have disappeared, and these people will rain havoc. On a serious note, I have to say it, I have to place it on good record. The people who are carrying out these killings are not the indigenous Fulanis. But the fact in issue is that the indigenous Fulanis are aware of the coming of these people. And that is why the killing is going on. Taking, for instance, in my local government, Mango local government, right from 2001, where we had crisis in Plateau State, there had never been any crisis in Mango local government. We cohabitate with all non-indigenous in the local government, no problem. But at this time around, our area is worse hit. You will find out that houses are destroyed. This is rainy season. If they set your house ablaze in the rainy season, of course, they don't want you to go back there. If they go to your farm and use cutlasses to mill your crop, of course, it is an indication that they don't need you, even your existence. Yes, the cows are the means of livelihood of the Fulani man. The crops are the livelihood of the Moravul man. So if you destroy his crops and you set his house ablaze, certainly there's no sincerity of purpose. You don't need him. You don't need him. You don't need his survival. Honestly speaking, what we used to read in Chaka de Zulu, his method of warfare, Scott Act policy, is exactly what is being meted in the Plateau. They destroy your house, they cut down your crops. Come on, what is the next thing? What do they want you to do? Is there any means of survival? Can we survive after the attack? The answer is no.
Well, I'm just wondering, Mr. Zadong, there are a number of things that are, that have popped up with what you have said, but a number of people will say, we've heard these things. When we hear the conflict in Benue State as well, it is the same story. In Plateau State right now, you know, the situation there is really, really sad. Excuse me. Anybody who has been to Plateau State and seen the beauty of the land will really be very, very heartbroken by what is currently happening in Plateau State. But only recently, I think it was about 2 weeks ago, the federal government declared a national emergency on the production of food. They want to see how they can bring food prices down, and they have ordered that the Ministry of Agriculture and the Ministry of Water Resources work together to see how they can, you know, produce food all year round. They want to give seed grains to farmers, and they also want to give fertilizers as well. We're also seeing that they also want to provide security, which they know should be topmost on their agenda. Federal government is saying they want to buy land. They want to collaborate with the state governments to buy land and see how they can provide ranches for herders. Do you think that this will bring an end to the conflict if the federal government is able to buy land and provide ranches for herders whom we know are normally nomadic?
Thank you, Marpe. If the federal government lives by its breathing, by its saying, of course, most of these things will come to pass. But first and foremost, if we talk of food production, the immediate thing that has to come first is the security of the areas where the food is produced. When we tackle the security issues in areas where this food is produced, then we will be on the right course. But if we only talk when now this is the farming season, and I am telling you, in my area, people cannot go to the farm. Those who had already farmed their crops have been milled down. And you know, our people are good in production of maize. And maize is a type of crop that once it has grown and you mute it, that is the end of it. It cannot regrow. So the federal government's policy is a laudable one, but the issue is that the security issue should be tackled first, then other things can come up. Right now, if you go to my area, hardly will you see farmers going to the farm. Now, the policy is a good policy. So let us tackle the security issue. If the security issue is tackled, sincerely speaking, the federal government will be on course in the promotion of food production.
Okay, let me ask Mr. Bagos, Honorable Bagos. I wanted to ask you as well if you heard about that particular policy. Was the president's media advisor who made the announcement? I think shortly after meeting with some farmers. I don't know whether it's something that you think will work if the federal government, because we do know that before now, the federal government has tried a number of policies, but oftentimes there's been pushback from the state government who say, who's going to give you the land, or whose land are you going to use?
Absolutely, Maupe. These issues have been on the front burner since the last administration.
Indeed.
Yeah, I can clearly recall when Plateau people rejected grazing reserve, be it ranching and so on and so forth, and it still stands. The thing here is, if government wants to look at subsidizing these issues, go down to the real basis. From the local governments that we mentioned here, out of 6 to 7 of those local governments, the only local government that majorly has the issue of livestock is likely Wasi. But Plateau people are agrarians. So why will you now make Plateau people to be second class, that you want to come and buy land for somebody to rear his cattle when that is not what we need? So go to areas that they are interested in livestock. Give them subsidy in that. And even the subsidy that I can further interrogate is this. One, my people are agrarian. So what we need is not the land. We have the land. So give us grains, give us fertilizer, and ensure security.
Yeah, but there is
go to areas.
veterinary institute in VOM.
Yes. So yeah, you use that. Give us whatsoever you want to use through the veterinary institute. Go to areas that are interested in livestock. give them subsidy in this fattening cows or whatsoever cow, create the ranch in that place because they already have the land to ranch. But not that you want to come to my village and forcefully acquire a land. By the way, most of these businesses are private business. So now I want to farm rice and corn. So will government now go and buy land for me in one of those states that I want to farm corn or I want to farm rice? Is that so? Because that is what I'm interested in.
Okay,
so why will you now want to come to my own village that I must sell land for you to create a ranch?
So it does appear there needs to be greater engagement on this particular policy of government. Well,
so if you want to do ranching, there are in the 21st century, there are many ways you can be able to do that. And by the way, it's a private business. Most of these issues are private business. So if you want to give loan to whosoever wants to do either of them, whether you want to farm, you're into food crops, you're into whatsoever, you're into piggery or whatsoever, you want to rear cows, go to Bank of Industry, access loan, and go to wherever you want to get land, buy the land or lease the land, and you continue with that. And so these are issues that government really needs to come to the table and ensure that everybody is a first-class citizen
of Nigeria. Well, Honorable Bagas, we want to thank you for coming in this one. Let's hope that this matter of conversations and engagement will continue.
Yeah, well,
and hoping that security issues will all be settled, decentralized, settled, and everyone will be treated as a first-class citizen of Nigeria and not just of the Plateau.
Exactly.
Thank you so much, Honorable Dachong Bagas, member representing Just South East Federal Constituency, and joining us virtually, Jim Wang Dezong, retired Commissioner of Police. You joined us from Plateau. Thank you both for coming in this morning. Sunrise Daily will be back in a moment. Just stay with us.